Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into the anatomy of a scare. We're going to unpack the totally chilling narrative mechanics behind the legendary Micho boot.
Okay, let's dive into this. Every truly great mystery starts with a sensory contradiction, right? And our central question today is immediate and honestly pretty unsettling. Why on earth would there be an overpowering stench of rotting fish miles away from any river or lake? It just doesn't make any logical sense. This isn't just some gross little detail. It's a deliberate disruption of reality. It's the story's way of telling us that the normal rules of the physical world, they no longer apply. So to really understand how this works, let's set the scene. We've got three friends, Rahul, Samir, and Vicky. They are trapped inside a broken-down car, completely surrounded by absolute darkness and a violently heavy thunderstorm on this deserted rural road in Bengal. Think about it. The car, which is supposed to be this symbol of safety and getting away, has basically become an iron cage for them. The heavy rain is completely masking the outside world, creating this incredibly claustrophobic, isolated environment. The tension inside that car is just rising and rising, perfectly mirroring the chaotic weather outside. Now, these aren't just spooky details thrown in for fun. They are highly structured environmental warning signs. The unexplainable smell of fish, that super eerie sensation of being watched from the tree line whenever the lightning flashes, a strange distant singing voice cutting through the storm, and of course, that relentless rain. These are our absolute first narrative clues. The story's clearly telegraphing that these young men aren't just having a run of bad luck with their car. Oh no, they've wandered right into the hunting ground of something distinctly unnatural. Driven by the freezing elements and a seriously rising sense of panic, our friends make a fateful decision. They abandon the car. They trudge through the thick mud toward a solitary, dilapidated house that's just emitting a single, dim yellow light. But wait, here is the absolutely crucial detail. As they get closer to what should be a safe haven, that nauseating smell of rotting fish doesn't fade away. It actually grows overwhelmingly strong. The narrative is totally subverting the classic safe house trope here. They aren't escaping the danger at all. They're walking directly into its epicenter. This source narrative paints this picture perfectly. It says, the inside of the house was freezing, with old black stains on the walls and water dripping from the roof. I mean, wow, this brilliantly illustrates how folklore uses the environment to mirror the entity itself. The house just feels dead, decaying, and wet, which, as we'll see, is exactly like the supernatural force they're about to face. The physical space is a direct, tangible reflection of the lore. Inside this incredibly decaying structure, they run into the classic harbinger archetype. The door creaks open to reveal a frail old man with sunken white eyes. He is visually unsettling right off the bat, yet oddly hospitable at first. But he wastes absolutely no time. He immediately hits them with this chilling, cryptic warning about the nearby river, literally telling them that if they had stayed out on that road any longer, they wouldn't have survived to see the morning. He acts as this perfect bridge between the ignorant modern world of these boys and the ancient, terrifying reality of the village. And this brings us directly to the folklore itself. The old man introduces them to the Micho boot. In Bengali folklore, Micho relates to fish, and boot means ghost. Put them together and you have a supernatural female entity completely consumed by an insatiable hunger for fish. Physically, she's literally a walking nightmare. She has backward feet, which is a huge classic sign of a demonic entity in South Asian folklore, by the way, a horrifying face meant to induce madness, and razor-sharp nails that could instantly slice a throat. So the really crucial point here is understanding the rules of this legend, because folklore always operates on a strict set of rules. Think of these as a checklist of doom. The conditions for a Micho boot attack are highly specific. First, it must be Amavasya, the pitch-black night of the new moon. Second, there must be heavy torrential rain. And the trigger, the bait, really, is the scent of fish being cooked inside a house. Keep these three conditions securely tucked in your mind as we keep going, because this is the architectural blueprint of the horror we're unpacking. This builds the psychological terror through a really stark contrast in how victims can react. If you encounter the Micho boot and you give in to your totally natural human instinct to turn and flee in terror, well, that results in an immediate, gruesome death. No way out. Your absolute only chance of survival defies every natural instinct you have. You must maintain unbroken, direct eye contact with this terrifying entity. It essentially forces the victim to intimately engage with the horror just to survive it. How wild is that? Which brings us to a really pivotal shift in our analysis today. Ask yourself, how does an isolated old man know these deeply specific, terrifying details with such perfect clinical accuracy? This is the exact moment the narrative pivots from just an educational recounting of local superstitions into a dark, deeply traumatic personal history. He isn't just reciting some myth to scare them, he is sharing a memory. We are now presented with a seriously chilling timeline. 30 years ago, he and his two friends made the fatal error of totally ignoring village warnings, and they caught river fish on Amavasa. He then left for the market for just 1 hour. Step 3, he returns to a literal bloodbath. Both of his friends had been violently murdered. And finally, step 4, he only survived by weaponizing the lore we just talked about. He maintained eye contact and actively fed the entity the very fish that drew her there in the first place. I mean, just imagine the sheer, visceral terror of this moment from the text. He says, "I kept looking into her eyes and without looking away, picked up a fish from the table and placed it in front of her." That is the ultimate test of nerve, isn't it? Staring right into the sunken, rotting eyes of a supernatural killer, feeling her cold breath on you, and having the sheer willpower to slowly offer her a meal just to save your own life. It's an incredibly tense, masterfully crafted piece of storytelling. But back in the present, the narrative gives us varied character reactions to this tale. Rahul and Samir do exactly what the old man did 30 years ago. They just laugh it off as backward rural superstition. But Vicky is kind of our analytical surrogate in the story. Vicky remains completely silent. His heart is pounding out of his chest because he is mentally processing the exact analytical breakdown we've just been doing. He is the only one seeing the trap slowly closing around them. Now, what's really interesting about this alignment of variables is how horrifying it truly is. The conditions of the old man's tragedy 30 years ago perfectly mirror the conditions of tonight. We have the violent thunderstorm, we have the total darkness of the Amavasya, the new moon, and most damning of all, we have that pervasive, sickening smell of rotting fish that has quite literally followed them from the car straight into the house. The checklist of doom? Yeah, it is complete. And this is exactly where the story utilizes dramatic irony to its absolute most agonizing extent, completely ignoring all those environmental signs we talked about and totally dismissing Vicky's silent panic. The hungry and entirely oblivious friends casually ask the old man, "What is for dinner?" We, the audience, analyzing the data, know exactly what's happening. The characters are walking blindly right into the maw of the legend. Let's walk through the exact steps of the climax, because it is paced perfectly. Step 1. The old man smiles this strange, unsettling smile and calls out into the dark house to Bhagwan, asking them to serve the guests. Step 2. The tension peaks as a long, distinctly non-human hand, tipped with sharp black nails, silently rests on the old man's shoulder. And then step 3. The entity slowly steps out from the pitch-black shadows of the dilapidated house. The visual reel here absolutely confirms every single piece of lore we established earlier. It is the Meko boot. Long, wet, filthy hair completely obscuring a terrifying face. Torn, ancient clothes. The horrifying signature of backward feet. And suddenly, that suffocating stench of rotting fish that began all the way back at the car reaches its absolute overwhelming peak, filling the entire room. The myth is standing right in front of them. The story then culminates with this truly chilling phrase, just hanging in the dead air of the house. The entity speaks in Bengali. Maj hish banai chere kabena? Mother has cooked fish today, won't you eat? It is the final horrifying confirmation of their doom. You see, the old man didn't just survive 30 years ago, he became a servant. That house wasn't a sanctuary at all, it was a feeding ground. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought. Knowing the strict rules of the folklore, the specific environmental manipulation, and the old man's dark history, were these three friends led to this isolated house by pure chance? Or, from the very moment they smelled that rotting fish on the road, were they the hunted prey all along, lured meticulously into the trap of the macho boot? It's a brilliant example of narrative structure, and I really hope this explainer has given you a deeper appreciation for exactly how legends craft terror. Keep analyzing, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.